right, Bitcoin accumulation country. It's the Fun with Bitcoin podcast, season 3, episode 10. My name is Phil, and let's get started. So this week, had a really interesting chat with fellow toxic carnivore Bitcoin plebe, SasquacheMuscle. SasquacheMuscle is definitely a super cool dude, and one of my favorite Bitcoiners to chat with. And anyways, we talk about everything. I've helped him out with some node stuff, and he's working on a really cool project called Salud Sats. And essentially, it's he provides Salud by accepting Bitcoin on the Lightning Network. They use Bitcoin as an incentive to take the steps needed to manage and promote health. So anyways, it's really interesting. It's kind of like it's a health program that is incentivized through Bitcoin and Lightning. We talk a little bit about that, but we really mostly spend most of our time just talking about, the everyday Bitcoiner stuff and, what's going on in the space. So without further ado, here is my discussion with SasquacheMuscle. Right, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the Fun with Bitcoin podcast. I've got a fellow Bitcoin plebe that I met on. I'd say I met him on Bitcoin Twitter, but he's also a fellow taco carnivore Bitcoin plebe. I'm talking about SasquacheMuscle. SasquacheMuscle, thank you so much, man, for coming on my podcast. It's been in the making.
Cornicorous, my dude. Of course, yeah, no, anytime, a friendly Bitcoiner like you, wants me to come on and shoot the shit, then I'm always down for that.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I think you know what? When I first started chatting with you, I heard you on a podcast. It was the Bitcoin Takeover podcast with Vlad, and yeah. So I think I want to dive into your rabbit hole story if you don't mind. Let's go right into it. Like, how did you get into Bitcoin? How'd you end up
Sure.
here?
So you know, I got in, at the height of 2017. It was a mid-December, so you can imagine what the euphoria was going on around that time. But I had been thinking back when we were discussing kind of rabbit hole stories, and I couldn't think of a time where I had actually had anything Bitcoin ever come across my mind, or I had run across it. And I had been tinkering with computers and tech, and I thought I was pretty tech savvy, and I was in the know, and looking at trying to do some things financially, trying to get rich quick, and scheming all the time, in various different things. I was like, how did I not run across Bitcoin before? Me at my work in December of 2017, when I'm seeing it on the TVs at my work. And these are they have CNBC on, and that's what they have is the mainstream media. And I was like, am I really a person who got into Bitcoin because of the mainstream media? And I couldn't think of um, any other way that I had run into it in the past. So I guess maybe I'm one of the few who the mainstream got. But it got me hard, and it was one of those things where I got into shitcoining right away. And unfortunately, that's the route that I took. I had a friend who let me know of a couple of Twitter personalities that I should follow that were doing some day trading. And I'll go ahead and even name them because it's so ridiculous. And you probably know who they are. Crypto Cho was one of them. He really thought that he had some good information, and he was telling me about the Elliott wave, and the other one, Silicone Crypto. Do you remember him? He went
Oh
kind of
yeah.
crazy at a certain point, but those were the guys he told me. He's like, hey, you got to follow these guys. We'll be able to to be able to take the Litecoin that I had purchased, because he told me it was the digital silver to Bitcoin gold, and it was faster, and so I got into Litecoin. And he's like, okay, go on the Binance, and there's a couple of different ones. Tron was one of the first ones that I bought. um, Ripple but I sold, like, I bought it at like 25 cents the first time around at that time, and I sold it like, I think, for like 22 cents. I just lost my money right away. But
Eesh.
that's how I got in, is basically um, straight to Litecoin, because I reached out to a friend from when I heard Bitcoin going up, and number went up and got me in, and since that point I've been through my ups and downs of you know never making any money trading, because I'm not a trader, but just like everybody else, I thought I was, which ended up culminating in me just kind of, selling all at the middle of 2018. And then, I kept doing my research and kept studying. And it's funny because I said this on Vlad's, but one of the things that actually got me into being kind of knowing that Bitcoin was tone days. And and he's also one of the reasons why I didn't buy as much, because I was expecting it to go down farther, for a variety of different things that he was saying, that he thought it was going lower. And the sentiment in February of 2019, around that time, a lot of people thought, okay, maybe it could be going a lot lower. um, and now I'm actually blocked by him, because I had tweeted at him that around that time he was having this unconfiscatable conference last year, and he had to sell a bunch of Bitcoin, when it was like $4,000 for the conference. He was saying that I got to sell some Bitcoin to fund the conference, and then not more than 2 weeks later, we're like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 13,000. And that poor guy, he was thinking that he was gonna buy lower, just like he convinced me. And luckily, I had gotten onto Bitcoin Twitter, like officially, like it was past crypto Twitter, where I'm not dealing with these guys who are day trading and scalping, and Elliott Wave, and Tone Base has his counting up to 9 and 13 or whatever that is. And um, basically from there, I was one of the first people I followed was Pierre Rochard, and I reached out to him about LND launcher. He gave me the information on where I needed to go, and then from there, I downloaded the node launcher, the uh, lightning torch. Started going around, huddle not, sent that out, and it was like I didn't know enough to get myself on it. I was like, man, I'm gonna have to give up. At that time it was like $20 a Bitcoin, but at that time I knew, I was like, okay, I'm just accumulating Bitcoin moving forward. So, I kind of ran into um, just not knowing and understanding Lightning Network at that time, and that's kind of what has grown to me. Exploring different nodes, trying out different Lightning wallets, learning about, initially it was Wasabi mixing, and then now Samurai that I'm dealing with. But definitely, I'm pretty deep down in this rabbit hole at this point, that we've had a lot of Twitter conversations that um, we're just going back and forth about what Bitcoin has done to kind of our perception on our outlook, and what we think about. We're much more optimistic, I think, about the future than maybe we would be otherwise. And we would have never actually met, met, I guess.
That's right. And I do agree with you. I could definitely say that Bitcoin has made me a lot more optimistic about the future, the possibility of the future. Um, just to go back to something that you were talking about, that everybody thinks that that they're a trader. That's one of the problems that a lot of people get sucked into, and especially because these exchanges are all, they're all open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you have all the time in the world to hang yourself with the rope, you know?
Oh yeah, and
So-
you don't realize how many trades you make, because you're looking at 30-minute time frames, and you're looking at hour long, less than daily, low time frame, charts, and you're thinking, all right, like this is going to be it, or this is I'm selling right here, and then and then it goes off, and then you're trying to play catch up, and just you just if they say all the time that however many percent of people trading are actually going to be able to make a living. I believe it. I've got a lot of sense of, false sense of understanding when I was randomly, buying shit coins on Binance, and they would pump, and I would happen to have like a sell order, pretty high up, and I would happen to just catch one, just literally just lucky, just happening to have purchased something.
Yeah.
But now I can look back at those, Crypto Cho is a known scammer. You see that stuff on where they, where he has that Telegram group or whatever he has, and they're basically, people are paying him like $1,200, and he's just not giving them anything, right? And it's like, oh, of course, right? He's just a scammer,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And now you look back, and they're all scammers. Most of them are trying to scam, and if they did have the advice that they were giving out for free, why would they give it out for free, right? And at least, um, you know provide some value to, to your followers by at least being funny or something.
Yeah, exactly. Did you ever watch guys like Data Dash on
No,
YouTube?
no, never.
No.
No.
Okay, so I mean Data Dash. So when I got into this, and I was like totally shitcoining, he would sit there and like kind of go over all these different shitcoin projects and look at the charts and talk about the quote unquote fundamentals. You know, because there's fundamentals to something that doesn't exist. There's fundamentals to vaporware. It's so like, and I kid you not. I mean, I was sitting there and I would watch this and I was like, oh, it's very interesting. That's this could work. And you just, anyways, it's such absolute garbage, and it is just such a painful rabbit hole. I forget what is it again, like only wrecked. You only learn when you get wrecked, and it is the truth. Like only when I had lost like 90% of everything, or at least 70% of everything that I had, did I really start to realize like what I had done.
Oh yeah, no, and if you're lucky enough to not have put in, you know, everything at the wrong time, you might be able to get out of it and be able to rebound, and you're not completely knocked out of the game. Like I'm sure some people are completely discouraged when they put, they buy at the top and they end up selling, 60-70% down, and then a couple weeks later it goes back up, and they're like, I'm done with that. That stuff is manipulated. The markets are manipulated, so people give up pretty easy. But there was this guy that reminds me, there's so many scammers that I can, you can bring up a certain scammer and you're like, oh, I've never actually heard of that one, right? There's just so many in the space. That there was this guy, he was Australian. His name was Zeke, and he was like a pumper. So I'd see, him going on to what's the video? Was it Periscope that you can go on Twitter?
Oh
He'd be
yeah.
doing videos where he's getting people's exchange username and passwords and their accounts, and he's pumping these different shit coins. Wearing a David Robinson jersey, just a full on. You could tell he was like a cokehead. You're like, this guy is literally a druggie who's periscoping himself, pumping and dumping, organizing these pump and dumps. And, I was lucky enough to just like randomly buy a shit coin that he ended up pumping. And I get home one day from work and I look at my Binance and I'm like, what? Why do I have so much money in here? Right. And now obviously I was measuring it in USD, but I was like, why do I have so much money? And obviously I look back and my buddy actually sent me a message. He's like, oh dude, that Australian Zeke dude pumped one of our bags. And I was like, what? No way. And then from there I was like, oh man, I'm pretty sure he got like full on doxxed, and like people who, he had taken their accounts, basically probably took care of him. I don't know if the dude's still alive, or what he's doing, but if he's not in like a gutter from his drug addiction, I'm sure he's probably, somebody got him.
No,
There's no way.
I had never heard of this guy, so that's definitely interesting. um,
That's how you know. There's scammers all over.
so many of them. So how many different types of because we've gone back and forth and talked about different nodes. Well, what have you installed? Because I feel like it's at this point didn't you get a Casa node?
Yeah, Neil, Bitcoin Vending, or I think he's like Ronin Dojo now. He's just switching his names up, but he was talking about what he wanted to do with his, and I reached out to him. I was like, dude, you should just send it to me, and he's like, all right, so I gave him somewhere he could send it to, and he sent it to me, and a couple days later I had it, and then that's when I was reaching out to you, and I was having so much trouble getting it to work. He factory reset it. I couldn't, I got it all set up, plugged in. I was trying to get, going through the web browser and getting myself set up, and I was having a ton of problems. So I was reaching out to Casa, and I knew at that moment I was like, man, these guys, I'm not a subscriber, so they were, telling me like, hey, like, typically this support that we're gonna try to give you is just for premium subscribers, but here's some command line, and I was sending that to you, and you were kind of helping me kind of read through that and input some of that command line and get it to work. I never got it to work, and I knew at
Right.
that moment I was like, man, their migration that they're talking about from the first one to the second one, good luck, because they couldn't get me figured out from Neil sending me that clean and getting it started. I was like, oh man, that was like a foretell to obviously where they're at now, where I know a lot of people are taking their Casa 2s and they're, you know, turning them into mynodes and all that. So I ended up turning it into a Raspiblitz and got it set up that way. And that was, the easiest way that I could do it, basically. Um, and that was pretty simple to do. I mean, I just followed the README file on their GitHub, and piece of cake. Like, if you can follow directions, if you know how to cook, make a recipe, know how to do anything, literally, you can follow directions, copy paste, and get some of those things running. And so once I got that node up, that was nice. I didn't really have a lot of use for it because I was using, desktop Zap on my main computer. I'm using Breeze as my Lightning wallet. Now I use Phoenix as well. Um, so I wasn't really using it too much. And me, I was reaching out to you on um, in your DM saying, man, I think I'm gonna do my node, man. I was getting so bad FOMO, seeing everybody talking about their my node and just how sleek and clean it looked. I was like, man, I was about to leave Raspiblitz, and they dropped that 1.4, but I think I'm still gonna do it. I saw my node looking sexy over there on the corner, and oh man, Raspiblitz, I'm sorry, but I gotta go. I gotta go over there and check out what's going on, and run that BTC Pay server. I want to get that started and run that and get that going. But so I started with that, and then from there, I've been trying to. My wife got a new computer. She's got her old computer hanging around. I threw Ubuntu onto it, and ran some Linux on there, and then I installed Samurai Dojo, which is surprisingly pretty easy as well. I mean, like, people say it's hard, and it might be hard, and maybe I got really lucky, but on a fresh OS install and following same thing, GitHub, you get on the Telegram groups. I installed a Docker. I don't even know what a Docker is or what it does, right? But it was pretty easy to install, like Google or GoDaddy, or not GoDaddy, but DuckDuckGo. Like, just figure it out, like, search out there. The instructions are so easy. I got that going. Um, it took me a while to get, the initial block download on that, but it was pretty easy to do. And now, I got connected my Samurai wallet to it with Dojo, so now I can send and have things going there and have them mix in, and it's all on my own back end server, and it's behind Tor. And some of those things, like I'm saying, I don't even know exactly what they mean or how they work, but in the type of background that I have of I work in public health and do a lot of things that are based around evidence based, looking at using the scientific method, just thinking critically. I've been able to to listen and learn from different podcasts and different Bitcoiners on Twitter, and people put together really great guides and videos, how to really do it all. So if you think that you can't spin up a dojo or get the materials to put together your own node through mynode or a Raspiblitz, or even buy a nodle or anything of that sort. You really can. It's really a lot simpler than I think people make it out to be. But you have so many resources you can reach out to on Bitcoin, on Telegram. um, that's what I found to be, everybody knows that Bitcoin is 24/7, 365. So people are living it that way, where, they respond pretty quickly. Uh, Everybody's loving to help you out, because it just helps to test out, some of the protocol that's going to eventually want to support, hundreds of thousands, millions, hundreds of millions of users that are using their services. They really want to test them out with people who are not only the experts and computer scientists or coders or programmers or whatever you may be, but just the regular people. Like I don't have any background in computers other than just loving technology, and loving electronics growing up my whole entire life.
So that's pretty amazing, because like that's definitely, to your point, right? A lot of people see kind of a little bit too much of a challenge to get into it. So, I think I think your point is, should be well taken by the general public. Um, just to go back to something that you said, because you're talking about converting, that you had converted the Casa one to a Raspiblitz. I, of course, have a couple of Raspiblitzes myself and a mynode, but I think that all I was hearing was you need to have more than one node so that you can play with all the toys.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in this dilemma of stacking sats or buying nodes, and uh, getting testing out some of the infrastructure that is we're still super early. Like, I just came in 2017, and just as everybody always says, like, everybody thinks they're late, right? But some of the work that's being done now, um, I think is what's getting much closer to mainstream. I don't know anything about the protocol in the sense of it, other than podcasts I listen to and the reading that I do. But um, I think there's no better time than now to be, I knew a couple people who had, the Blu-ray players before anybody ever had them, right? And when you saw that, you're like, oh man, that's pretty sweet. That new technology is pretty sweet. And there's those early adopters. I think we're all kind of still in that, where maybe some of the tech that we have and nodes that we have may become obsolete, later on in the future. But just like anything else, hey, that's kind of what you do to be the one who gets the new products in your hands and tests them out, and helps new generations of individuals get on board. And luckily for us, Bitcoin is what we're all kind of working and putting together, our mental capacity and power together to kind of uh, push the protocol forward in any way that we all can help, either podcasting, educating, just being a hands-on user and providing feedback. um, so we're all supportive of the network some way.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And what I like about it is that I find, I find, unlike the stupid big blocker narrative, where they just want very few centralized nodes, extremely powerful computers that can be, closely monitored and everything, handling the blockchain. When you're dealing with Bitcoin, I find, helps push the micro tech, because what we want is the technology to get smaller and nimbler, and to be able to still be able to handle the decentralized, censorship resistant nature of Bitcoin. With that really, the reality is that we need these little, these little microcontrollers and these little things to be able to to be able to handle this stuff. So I think that it's, even though to your point, a lot of the older tech goes obsolete, but it's still the newer tech that it's being built on, such as like even the Raspiblitz 4, the footprint, even though it's a more powerful machine, all we're doing is harnessing a more powerful processor and more RAM, but it has the exact same footprint. Nothing changes on it, and it's still able to run, Bitcoin, Lightning, and 25 other services. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it really is amazing, man. I remember, I really wanted to get into computer science when I graduated high school, but I had one teacher. I remember, he asked me, he's like, what do you want to do when you go to college? And I was like, man, I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I just know that I'm supposed to go to college. So I'm going to college, and I'm just, completely unprepared, for what college, is about to bring. But I was like, man, I think I maybe want to do something with computers. And he was a little bit younger, and he was like, man, don't do that. He said, don't even bother. He said, I got a computer degree and it's not worth anything. And I hate that guy. I still think about him every once in a while, because it really did. It just changed the way that I was just so easily influenced, by people that I trusted and respected, not knowing that, now I know, like, a lot of people, they don't know shit. There's a lot of really dumb people out there, who are good at giving advice. And that doesn't mean that it's good advice or that you should take it, but they'll give it, right? And I took his advice, but I was still really interested. And I did a couple of different things. I was I had one of my first Windows phones. It was like '08, and this was before Android came out. And I was putting the first, I think it was like Cupcake or something, first Android OS onto this Windows, mobile phone that I had. And I still to this day cannot believe that through that, like, tinkering with, custom ROMs on my Android phone, and being, deep into these, developer forums, for Android, that I never ran across Bitcoin. It's still, like, to this day, it's like people have said, it comes at the right time, for you. And I just happened to be coming in from getting coffee, on a Friday, where I was trying to probably, do nothing at work, and I ran across it. I remember asking, a guy in the elevator who, had a communication software product, and I was like, what do you think about Bitcoin? And he's like, man, it's a bubble. He's like, it's a bubble. And I was like, you know what? I don't think that guy knows what he's talking about. And that's like really what started. Then I text my homie after that, and I was like, okay, what do you know about this? Because I was like, if that guy thinks it's a bubble, and I think he's supposed to be pretty smart, and I think he was a software engineer, and I was like, okay, then maybe this is something, right? And it just happened to be, it was.
I find it interesting, right, that people sit there and say, Bitcoin's a bubble, and like somehow that's bad, because we take a look at anything throughout history, right? Real estate is a bubble. The price only goes up. The next generation buys your real estate bag. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, so housing is a bubble all on its own. Stocks are a bubble, because you're doing the same thing. Look at the Dow Jones Industrial. You could take a look at a long-term historical chart, and it's bubble. So if you ask, if you ask me, like, it's like, what? How about this? How about maybe it is a bubble, but it's a better constructed bubble. The same way that it's better constructed money, Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's I forget who it was. I think it was John Carvalho. When I spoke to him, like, back in 2018, he said, Bitcoin's a Ponzi for the people, and and I found that to be like such an interesting statement, because it's like the way that he meant it. Of course, only John could explain it, so I'm gonna just do a horrible job at it. But it's like, if you think about it, it's, because it's like, it's a Ponzi with no head. So because there's no top, it's every single person buying and holding, and then selling and buying and holding, and down the road it goes. it's very interesting, but there is no ultimate, top to the Ponzi, which is very interesting, and that's why it's a Ponzi for the people. Because right now with fiat, we're participating, in a racket for the government. So why would we not be better off in participating in something that's for us by us?
Oh man, yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a Ponzi for the people. Is I don't like to be involved with Ponzi's, but if they're for the people, right, then maybe they're not so bad. But I work in, like I said, I work in public health, and I work a little bit with healthcare and do some consulting. And one of the things, there are so many scams in healthcare that it for me it was like from going from my experience with what I know now about just my career and how information spreads and how people are. There's been Herbalife, there's all those different types of kind of pyramid schemes where you're trying to kind of get people, underneath the umbrella to sell the shakes so that you don't have to sell as many shakes. And then you get, 20 people who are selling the shakes. And, I think that's why sometimes people are hesitant to get into Bitcoin because of the susceptibility to Ponzi schemes. But once you learn a little bit about how many people value Bitcoin and its properties, and it is truly an incentive to do whatever they decide that the value of the Bitcoin is one, either saving more money or putting off eating out or drugs or alcohol because they're trying to stack sats, or you make sacrifices here and there because you understand the scarcity and the hard money that Bitcoin is. um, and that incentive is you can see it and you can feel it, that people for many different reasons value Bitcoin in a variety of different ways. And it's a huge incentive driver, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in its application to some of the things that I know well, which are prevention programs, digital health programs, behavior change programs. And I work focus more on proactive prevention of chronic disease through health programs. But incentives are what we are always looking for, to how do we drive people to adopt behaviors for the long term, understanding that they're going to have to sacrifice either some value of money now or time to ultimately acquire the skills that protect them from chronic disease and conditions in the future. And I'm really interested in potentially how Bitcoin as an incentive can be used to basically help people to live healthier. Because I've seen it on Bitcoin Twitter, right? People are doing fasts, they're doing fast for a certain amount of blocks. They're doing people do carnivore, people do whatever diet they want. But I think a lot of it is at least incentivized by Bitcoin and wanting to be healthy and be prepared for what the future has to bring. That some people were preppers and they're prepared in that sense, and some people are have their guns and they're prepping their food, and some other people are hitting the gym and eating healthy and getting a good night's rest and doing all the things that they need to do to be healthy, and provide for their family in ways where they're saving proper amount of money. Obviously, if you're a Bitcoiner, you're thinking a good portion of that's going to be in what you want to be a store of value in the future. But people are as time goes on, they're going to be much less willing to give up their Bitcoin unless they believe that they're getting something of value, and that those skills or that product is translatable to spending your hard-earned and held Bitcoin, which I know you've alluded to, of better products because of Bitcoin. And I think in terms of health programs, I think there's a possibility to utilize Bitcoin as an incentive to help drive adoption of behaviors.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. It's You know what? Just to go back on something though that we were just saying before. So in a typical type of scenario, right? You know, there's in a scam scenario, people are looking to unload something because you mentioned the multi-level marketing and everything like that. In Bitcoin, that was one thing that I had noticed where it was. This is how I knew that it was also different. Nobody was actually trying to sell it to me. Um, like it's not it's the protection, like the type of like protective nature of like Bitcoin maximalists and stuff like that. Like they're not sitting there trying to shill you their bag of Bitcoin. Like they don't want you even getting it because they want to be able to get more of it. So this is where it gets very, I think, different than than a traditional type of scenario where somebody is trying to unload something on you. So again, I think that's a tribute to its its monetary properties. Like people actually want to hold it, don't want to get rid of it, and as a result, if you're going to get rid of it, require a superior service, a superior product, superior experience, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Actually, you were talking about the health programs. I know that you're working on something called Salud Sats, and you have a I don't know if we can say can we give the website address yet?
Sure. Yeah. No.
Okay,
Uh,
so
yeah, it's salutesats.com.
we're gonna put that in the show notes.
So one of the things that like I mentioned, using Bitcoin as an incentive, one of the things that I've learned through working through different healthcare providers who are looking at putting together, health programs or solutions that they find, would help to benefit population groups. Typically, I work in either organizations, companies, churches, and they're always coming in and they have they're always trying to figure out how do they price their programs to dollar value, and they're always overvaluing them, because they're valuing and putting their time and wanting to accumulate USD, so they're willing to charge what I understand and know is much more than what the value of those programs are. And I've noticed that consistently, that those providers that are thinking in USD, they're always wanting to get the most. They're just in healthcare. That's, I think, something that's really common is they know that healthcare is overpriced, so they're willing to overprice for what is a program that's not worthy of it. So what one of the things that I'm doing is I'm putting together a 9-week program that also has 10 follow-up modules. But the 9-week program is built around 3 foundational behaviors of health. And we only accept Bitcoin because we want Bitcoin to be one of the incentive drivers to have you engage in the program and maintain in the program because you're putting up your Bitcoin. And as a part of that, what we're actually doing is we are pegging our 9-week program to $4 USD. So we call it kind of a validity adjustment because we know dirty fiat is volatile. And what we want to do is we want people to be aware that the price of this program is going to be around $4 USD, regardless of what the price of Bitcoin is. So the higher the price of Bitcoin goes, the less satoshis you pay for the program, and vice versa. But it also helps to kind of reinforce. The value of Bitcoin with our expectation that Bitcoin will go up in the future, and then you'll be actually spending less of your satoshis to engage in our 9-week and full year-long program, which is delivered through email. So you receive a weekly prescription in our 3 different behaviors. So we focus on functional movement. So how do you build a body that is able to move well in the long run? So regardless of the type of activity that you engage in, how do we get you to move well so that you reduce your risk of injury? That's for the first 3 weeks. The next 3 weeks are focused around sleep. So those are going to be strategies that you can put in place to sleep better at night, with a main focus of 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. So you're moving better, you're sleeping better, and then the last thing is going to be a mindfulness 3 weeks that focuses on breathing techniques and strategies to help you to be more mindful. I know you, Coinmakers, you checked that out a little bit and kind of proofread it for me. So that is the main foundation, those 9 weeks. And like I mentioned, it's pegged at 4 USD. So when we first started, it was, it was about 55,000 sats. Then, at the beginning of February, we basically change it at the closing price of each month. So at the end of February, whatever the closing price was yesterday, that's what the new price is moving forward for the rest of this month. So that's just a initiative and kind of a program and business that I'm kind of working on. That's Bitcoin only. It's focused really on providing Bitcoiners and holders alike, and then really the lay public to learn a little bit more about how do you take care of your health, and then how does Bitcoin potentially provide an incentive to better your health, because you're putting those sats on the line. And then we're going to end up hoping to grow the idea to provide what we consider uncalled proof of work. So if you engage in the program and complete some of the required tasks that we'll have as a part of the weekly emails, you receive some sats back as proof of work for engaging in your health. So as this kind of continues to grow out, there'll be some new additions in terms of programs, but right now, that's kind of what I'm looking at. And we'll be opening up a pilot group of anybody. Go to salutesats.com, register with your email. We'll send you out some information on a pilot group that's going to go out for 9 weeks to try it out. Give us some feedback on what the program is like, what you guys think. Is it beneficial? Are you moving better, sleeping better, managing your stress better? And then after that, you'll have 10 maintenance modules of different behaviors that we find beneficial to better your health. And like I mentioned, it's only $4. So translated over to sats, depending on when you purchase it. But that's something that I'm really interested to see how people react to it. Only because I know the programs are beneficial. It's just a matter of the time that you invest and the value that you find in that program and how much you commit to do it, to do the action items each week. You should be setting yourself up for success at a relatively low cost. That should be some strategies that you learn and know for the rest of your life. And then you can go out and find things that are more specific. So if you like to exercise a certain way or live mindfully a certain way, then you can do that. But you'll have a nice firm foundation on where to build off of in terms of bettering your health.
Well, I think it's fantastic that you chose a health angle. I obviously love that it's Bitcoin only. Look at that, able to take payments for health-based programs with incentives. So once again, it's like you always hear these stupid shitcoin stories, of like these random use cases, and they need a special token. Money is money. Like that doesn't need a special token, and here's somebody who's doing something that is actually it's going to be positive, and there you go, accepting Bitcoin. So man, SasquacheMuscle, dude, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and that's just that's just using Bitcoin as a little bit of an incentive. That's the only real way that it's kind of a unique program is that we use Bitcoin as an incentive. But being able to accept Lightning payments, and that's one of the reasons I want to get BTC Pay server up and see how that works. But I've been working with Bootstrap Bandit, and they have paywall, lnpay.co. He has a really nice way to put up paywalls and put things behind it. And there are still some challenges of getting all those things in place and making sure that you're able to provide a good user experience. But when I I've had this idea of putting together a program like this for many, many years, but I couldn't figure out a way where I was going to be able to do it feasibly without, using like a payment processor or figuring out some way where they're going to be getting a cut. And then, when I learned about Bitcoin and the Lightning Network, it was one of the first things that clicked. I'm like, okay, like, I reached out to him, almost a year ago when I heard of lmpay.co being able to put information behind the paywall, PDFs, URLs. And I said, hey man, I think I have an idea of some things I'd like to do. And that's really then evolved and grown to then learning a little bit more about Bitcoin. And I'm like, okay, well, the foundation of this really is the incentives that Bitcoin provides for people to engage and better their health.
It's absolutely fantastic. Seriously, I mean, obviously, you gave me some of the stuff to proofread. I really like it because, of course, as you know, I like the breathing exercises and mindfulness and stuff like that. I'm already into that. So, to me, I guess I'm biased because I practice this and I believe that it helps. So, yeah, man, very cool.
Well, if at least 30% placebo, right? at least if you do it, you can get a placebo out of it, and that will benefit you. I can guarantee it. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's the funny thing about when there's people trying to put out a new idea, and you see it all the time. There's really great ideas on Bitcoin Twitter that people are coming up with companies, designs. Um, you saw Martin's power computer. Man, that thing looks legit, right? Like there's people actually
Yes.
building out and doing some really cool things with Bitcoin as just the central mantra of reputation is almost everything, because those sats are so valuable to everybody that you feel guilty. Like I feel guilty even thinking that this program, that I would charge people for these programs, because I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't want to be that guy who I want to hold my sats and I don't want to spend them until I find something that's valuable. But then I'm out here, putting something together. I'm like, hey, I kind of want your sats,
But
sir. I feel like that Bernie meme that's going on right now. I'm asking for their uh, for their Satoshi support for Salute Sats, just to learn a little bit more of. How are people going to build that circular economy, and how are people going to start using Bitcoin, so that eventually, us holders are able to use them, use our satoshis on some really cool products that are built around the idea that you can't just be putting out something that's cheap or not helpful or beneficial or scammy, because people are going to find out, and once they find out that it's a joke, then it's very hard to climb yourself out of that. So I'm really focused on ensuring that it's not any woo-ha. It's everything that's built around the strategies that I know and research has shown to be extremely beneficial for your health. So that's one thing that will stay true to what we put together.
well, I'm excited to hopefully give it a shot. So, very cool. Um, we're actually gonna wrap it up, but before we do you have any final thoughts for the listeners?
Yeah, just go out, figure out ways to get as much Bitcoin as you possibly can. Um, if you're looking around your house, sell some things. Don't be buying the coffee on the weekends, or so much booze, or do the things that you need to. Obviously, don't cut your own hair, please. If that's one of your plans, just please do not do that unless you're already going bald, and you can just straight buzz it. But get your hands on as many as you possibly can, because I'm starting to even be a little bit more open about shilling Bitcoin to people I know.
Mm-hmm.
And that once all of us who are plebes start going on our foot on the gas pedal to get friends and family members to start chipping in and getting some of those sats off the market, that things are really going to start moving. And I know that price is going to be a big driver of that. but also the easiest way we know in business is to get referrals, is to get them from happy customers and their recommendations. So if people trust Coin Icarus and Sasquatch Muscle, what they're going to do is they're going to put a little bit of faith in number go up. And once people start doing that, I think it's going to be a big cascade of everybody, everyone for themselves trying to get those precious Bitcoin. And I'm a part of that race, and I'm already on that mindset. And I know a lot of other people are that they're going to get them all, and we're going to get them all. And how many do you want to get for yourself and your family and in the ecosystem that you live in and hang out with? And I'm going to be watching out because I'm getting them. I'm getting them all, baby.
I totally agree. It's it's. I mean, look, at the very least, we could get people. We could get people to go and do their own research, right?
Right.
At the very least, get them to think critically and go do their own research.
Yeah, and I think that people get skin in the game that way. I think that's one of the only ways that they can do it. And I know a lot of people I've probably told to buy Bitcoin, they probably sold pretty quickly after that, which is perfectly fine because I'm pretty persistent. I don't stop. If you're my good friend, I'm not going to leave you behind, baby. You're coming with us, man, to the Citadels. We're going to get this shit figured out, and we're all going to be chilling, in the Citadels together.
That's awesome. All right, Sasquatch Muscle, man. Thank you again so much for coming on my pod. It was great. Great to chat.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me ramble, man. Take care. Take it easy.
You too. So I hope you guys enjoyed that chat with Sasquatch Muscle. I'm going to put a link to the Salud Sats website in the show notes. Also, Sasquatch Muscle's contact information for Twitter. And as always, to reach me on Twitter or Telegram, I'm at Coin Icarus. If you want to reach me by email, I'm coinicarus@funwithbitcoin.com. Catch you all next time.